Hello, welcome to Homeschool Peace. I'm Cassandra. I'm a homeschool mom of 3. Today I wanted to talk about how we can battle those lies that can creep in to our homeschooling and how we can set realistic expectations for our home. To start off, we just need to look at our current education situation. We have some families that were public and private schooled, and now their kids are in the house doing a different form of homeschooling. We have those who were homeschooled or cyber schooled who now are having a quarantined homeschool. Both of those situations isn't what true homeschooling is about. And today I just wanted to dig into those 6 lies that can creep in, whether you are right now in a crisis homeschooling situation or you're the family that is currently homeschooling and plans to keep homeschooling, and how can we battle some lies to be able to set our families up for success. So lie number 1, I'm not good enough. Ugh. We feel this a lot. You know, you think about it, you're like, my kids ask so many questions. How am I gonna know all the answers? I think what we need to remember that there's not one teacher out there that knows every single thing from kindergarten through 12th grade and is an expert on every subject. You are going to be learning with your kids. And what's great about homeschooling is you actually have the teacher manual in your hands. So what you don't know, you can easily look up. I think the other thing we need to remember is that we're actually showing our kids how we can find out information when we don't know the answer, how we can look in encyclopedias and look in dictionaries and look things up online. So if your child comes to you and you don't know the answer, it's okay to say, hey, I don't know, but let's go find out together. I think also to think through public or private school, you're talking about a 1 to 25 student ratio. When you're in your home, you are one-on-one with your student. Even if you have multiple kids that you're teaching, you're still able to dedicate that time to know, what does my kid really know? Where do they need to work harder? Where could we spend more time? So no matter what public schooling or private school out there can provide your kids, you need to remember that God gave those kids to you, and He is able to use you to really help them and teach them using all the resources that are out there. One thing that I like to do is I write down my vision. I write down, what do I want to see for my homeschooling? What do I want my kids to learn? And it might be something spiritual, maybe it's something emotional. It can be anything, but what is the vision for my home and what do I see for my family? So I encourage you to sit down and just write out, it could be just some words, it could be a couple sentences about a vision for your home. And so when all of a sudden you feel like, I'm not good enough, you can go back to those and say, look at all this great things that I'm able to teach my kid. And that schooling isn't just about what a score we get on a report. That education is about pouring our lives into our kids, and that they're able to have life lessons and they're able to have character lessons that are more than just what a book tells us. So that brings me to our lie number 2, is we hear that I'm not teaching long enough. To stop there, we are not a public or private school. When you have so many kids coming into the building, you know there has to be time from taking attendance, gathering papers, sorting through kids. There's so much time, so you talk about, let's say 6 hours your child is sitting at school. And during that time, you have to think through, what is that time that they're actually learning? Where is that actual book work or learning work happening? And when we cut out all that wasted time, you can drill down to what you would expect for your homeschooling. And guess what? It's not gonna look like public schooling, and that's okay because we're not doing a public or private school situation. So if you look at a child pre-K to kindergarten, max time you're probably spending is 45 minutes to an hour if you really just add up the time that you're sitting down working with them throughout the morning. If you go to say 1st grade through 2nd grade, you're talking about an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And then your 3rd through 5th grade, you're gonna be talking about like an hour and a half to 2 hours. For your 5th through 8th grade, maybe it's 2 to 3 hours. And for your 9th through 12th grade, maybe 3 to 4 hours. But you think through a 6-hour school day, when you drill it down to only just a couple hours, you are finishing up school, even for your whole entire home. If you're teaching multiple kids, easily if you work in the morning, you're getting done by lunchtime. When you're talking about any of these times, the big tip here is don't set timers. You want your child to be free to learn. You want to be able to gauge where they're at on things and timers are going to restrict them. You're not in public school, there's no bells ringing, you don't have to close the books and move to the next subject. So don't set timers. And the other thing to remember on the flip side is that when you see your kid and you can tell that they've hit their limit, you can tell maybe they turned from being able to work on that math problem to now they're creeping into being overly emotional about their math, you're able to shut the book. You want your curriculum to work for you, and you don't want to work for it. So if you feel like this, we're done, we're not going to be able to do anymore, I don't like to say to my kid, we're done, and shut the book. Instead, I look at them and I say in a calm voice, hey, I think we're good for the day. We'll go ahead and finish that paper tomorrow. We'll finish that math paper tomorrow. Let's go ahead and take a snack break. And now I've shifted gears, and then my kid is able to calm down. So back to our time and how long. You can't actually put a specific time on it because you're, as a parent, need to be able to gauge where your child is, whether they're really excited about school and they want to keep going, or you need to pull back a little bit. But overall, you're not creating a public school, and you don't have to follow a public school schedule. You're not going to be schooling for 6 hours a day, and it's okay to shut the books. All right, that brings me in to lie number 3. I'm not teaching enough subjects. It's sort of like the fear of missing out. We look at all these great things on Pinterest, we see things on YouTube, we watch things that our friends are posting, and we're like, oh, this looks amazing. Maybe my kid can learn this, or here's a class my kid can take. And especially as homeschoolers, we have even a whole nother group of classes that are happening during the day, and it's so easy to pick up that extra curriculum and do that extra work. What I like to do is look at it and say, is it cheap to add? Is it easy to add? And if I can say yes to both of those, that's my flag. And I say, stop. Let's just rewind. Think through my day. Think through that vision that I created in the beginning of the year. Is that where my child is going to be? Is that where I want him to be at the end of the year? Does this fulfill that purpose and vision? And if it's so easy and cheap to add, if you're going to be researching curriculum and it is going to have some cost to your family, you're going to take the time to know if this fits for your family and this is something that you want to do. But if it's something that's so easy to add, maybe something you saw on Pinterest, you need to realize that's just going to eat up more of your schedule and more of your day. That you need to basically say, nope, that is too much for my family, because you're going to find yourself spread too thin, especially if you're teaching multiple kids and you have multiple kids trying to do all kinds of subjects and all kinds of after-school activities. You're not going to fulfill that vision that you have. You need to basically look at, say, where do I want to end in the year? And you need to start where you want to finish. All right, that brings me to lie number 4. I don't have a good enough homeschool room or homeschool space. There's so many amazing homeschool rooms out there, and if you have a great homeschool room, yay for you, I love it. But you need to remember that you can school anywhere, and it doesn't have to be between 4 walls. You can homeschool on a sofa, a bed, a kitchen table, a porch, the grass, the park, the sidewalk. You can school anywhere, and it doesn't have to be restricted to a certain room. Homeschool rooms are fantastic and help to keep the mom organized, but if all of a sudden your homeschool room is plastered with primary colors everywhere and there's posters all everywhere, I would question, are you trying to display your homeschooling, or is this for your kids? Are you trying to prove that you're homeschooling in your home, or is this actually benefiting your family? When you restrict yourself to that homeschool space, you don't have the flexibility that you want to get in learning. And then for somebody who doesn't have that type of homeschool space, or you don't have the space in your home to have it, you need to just work with what you have and realize that your child doesn't need that desk to be able to learn. They're learning from just sitting with you with a clipboard and a pad of paper. And you're teaching them, you're outside getting your hands dirty, you're sitting on a sandy beach and teaching them. Those are amazing places that the kid is going to remember more than a homeschool space. You're not creating a public school in your home. That brings me to lie number 5. My kids won't listen to me that well. Maybe I'm not that great of a mom. We fight through feelings like, oh, maybe it's my kid is just very disobedient. They just won't listen. Or maybe I'm just not great. Maybe I don't know how to be a good mom. I don't think I could homeschool my kids. They wouldn't listen to me. First, remember that God gave you those kids and He provided you with the knowledge and understanding of how to raise them, and that you have the power as a parent to be able to train and raise your kids in the way that you feel led to do. There is a part of setting expectations with your kids to let them know how the day is when they're new to homeschooling, that mommy's now your teacher. This is what the expectation is. From this time to this time, mommy's teacher. I'm wearing my homeschool mom hat, and then when homeschool time is done, I'm gonna take that hat off, and now I'm just gonna be your mommy. And so I'm making sure your children understand that. Another thing is just realizing that the picture that we put out there for homeschooling and the pretty picture of the family sitting together on the sofa and everybody's just really listening to that story and cuddled up, those moments happen, but they don't happen every day. There is going to be times that you are going to have your kids fighting back. There is going to be times it's going to be messy. There's going to be disruptions. It's going to be crazy. Things are going to be spilled. Problems are going to happen. And you know what? When your kids get done with homeschooling, they're not going to remember all that. They're just going to remember the times that you really loved them and poured out the knowledge that you have to them. And it doesn't need to be a pretty picture, because that's not what real life is. So kick out the lie of what homeschooling is supposed to look like. And also know that there is a point that you need to, as a mom, to take ownership of that day and be able to say, I'm your teacher. This is what I expect. And then we can pop off that hat and just say, school's done. Let's cuddle and let's play. All right, and that brings me to lie number 6. I don't have enough time. If you are a working mother or working father and your days are spread very thin, it is very difficult to be a homeschool parent, especially if right now you're getting put into a crisis situation of homeschooling. And that is not really who I'm talking to. I am talking to the mom that is able to be home, that maybe she's a stay-at-home mom or only works part-time and is planning to homeschool their kids. When I'm talking about that type of mom, there is times that you are making sacrifices. Maybe you're waking up earlier than you used to exercise. Maybe the times that you would have had to just relax and talk with some friends in the middle of the morning may not happen. Maybe after you put the kids to bed, before you have time with your husband, maybe you're just spending 15 minutes pulling out the books that you need, and then you go and have some time to watch a television show with your husband. So there is times that you are sacrificing, but that goes back to that bigger vision, that picture you have for your family. And if you hold on to that, you realize that there's something bigger in this than just my day-to-day, me sacrificing some of my time. There is something that I am training them to be able to be those world changers. Also, with not having enough time, we need to remember that you can select different curriculum. If you are a homeschooler, you may pick your own curriculum, whether you do things that use a DVD, or maybe there's a subject that you're really struggling with math and you have trouble teaching that. You could select just to do an online course of just math. There are so many different resources out there, and my schooling may not look like your schooling. So the whole comparing others and thinking that I need to do the same curriculum that my friend uses, that may not work for you. There is different styles of homeschooling, from a literature-based education to workbook-based to standards textbooks. There's different ways to homeschool, and you may need to just take some time and find out what type of curriculum fits best with my family. What type of home do I want to have? And that all ties back to our vision. And so your homeschooling may not look like my homeschooling, but at the end, our kids are going to have wonderful educations tailored to their needs. So finally, I just want to tell you that you are worthy. You are good enough. You can do this. And if you need any help, don't homeschool alone. Go find friends that also homeschool, connect arms with them, and ask for help where you need help. You are not alone in this, and there are people that can help and support you. If you like this video, I would just ask you to click subscribe and go ahead and like the video. And I hope to talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.